Eric Crocker from the Locked On 49ers podcast joins us here. Cattles and Ramie, no Ramie, Sactown Sports on this Friday. Eric, thanks for joining us. It is much appreciated. How should we be feeling about Trey Lance's camp up to this point?
I think you should be feeling that I would assume things are going according to plan. Not better, but not worse. So probably where Kyle Shanahan thought he would be at this point in training camp and obviously like through preseason as well. I think Trey Lance has met those expectations. But again, maybe not exceeded them, but has met those expectations.
You know, I was reading today, it's kind of interesting. Jed York came out and said they're happy to keep Jimmy Garoppolo. Eric, what is your I know everybody has one of these, and they've had one for a long time. What is your Jimmy G prediction before we get to week one?
I think they release him. If I had to guess before week one, listen, I hear Jed York, and you know, he's probably rooting for the guy, and they're probably buddies and all that. But Kyle Shanahan came out on the Tim Cowell Comedy Show and straight up said it like, you know, hey, the 49ers would feel like we're in a good place, and Jimmy Garoppolo will be in a good place somewhere else, but not with the 49ers come week one. So I don't anticipate Jimmy Garoppolo being there. Not sure exactly what Jay York is talking about.
Eric Crocker is with us, Locked On 49ers podcast host. Eric, I was just talking about this running back room. Could Davis Price actually be the number one back when we kick this season off?
You know, he's a guy that I really like the way he runs. He brings a different dynamic than other guys. At LSU, he ran a lot of inside zone stuff. And I was wondering if the 49ers would get to a little bit more power scheme type stuff with him. He's a bit of a bigger back. Now, I know at the combine, he weighed in at 211 pounds, but I think he plays closer to 220, 225, 230 pounds. And for a guy who ran 4.48. So he has the necessary speed and definitely has nice acceleration getting out, finishes runs extremely well. Is he an every down back? He might need to be able to catch a little bit better, but I think that, you know, using him on first and second downs, he can do well there.
You know, Eric, when you look at this room of running backs and their lack of health already, like Elijah Mitchell's banged up, Sermon was banged up a little bit yesterday, Wilson is a bubble guy. Peter King spoke this week, and he talked about Debo not getting as many carries this year as he did last year. If this running back room can't stay healthy, do you think that plan is out the window and Shanahan goes back to Debo?
Well, they put the incentives in Debo's contract that, you know, the more carries he gets, the more yards, the more touchdowns, the more money he gets. So Debo definitely won't be opposed to getting more carries. But if I had to guess, I'd say some of the kind of nicks that these guys are dealing with right now, they're more so preseason training camp nicks where, okay, we'll sit you out and, you know, we don't want to make anything any worse heading into the season. But I bet if there was a game tomorrow, those dudes will be ready to go. They might be listed as questionable, but they play. I mean, they had to pretty much bandage up Elijah Mitchell for a bunch of games last season with his knee injury, didn't practice a whole lot, had the rib issue, and even then Kyle Shanahan turned around and gave him 27 carries. So Kyle won't shy away from giving those guys a rock, even if they're a little banged up. If they have multiple guys that they like and they like how they're running, then they'll use them. If not, then, yeah, you can definitely see Debo Samuel do a little bit more, just as he did last season.
When you look at the wide receivers, Eric, obviously we know who Debo is. Ayuk came, you know, in kind of not so great last year. Then he ended pretty well. There's a lot of talk about Ayuk this preseason, about him, you know, showing flashes and the potential. How good can Ayuk be in your estimation in this offense?
I think he can be really good. You know, I think for him, it's just going out there and trying to win every single rep, right? Like keeping that competitive drive going. I know, you know, listening to him talk in a press conference after the practices, and he was like, man, you know, I think it was kind of a waste of time being out here. You know, it was cool work, but kind of a waste of time being out there in Minnesota with the joint practices. And maybe, but I don't know. I mean, I just kind of look at it myself and some of the other competitors that I know, and you get excited just to go against other people and really kind of get to display the talent that you have. And obviously he has a lot more talent than I ever did, but just that, you know, having that mindset of I'm just going to kill whoever's across from me. And it's like, man, does he have that in him? You know, because you hear those comments, but I think even then you see the talent that he has is very clear. Going to 49er training camp practices, he's clearly, when you look at just everything you want in a receiver, from route running ability, his ability to stretch the field, now he's getting down the contested catch aspect to his game, which I think that was one thing that was kind of missing a little bit. I mean, he's turning into a real, like, full, well-rounded receiver. Now it's just having that kind of relentlessness in him, right? Like, think about some of the guys we grew up on, watching guys like Steve Smith and the aggressiveness that he took to every single play, every rep. And it's like, man, you want IU to have a little bit more of that in him to really take his game to the next level.
Eric Crocker, Locked On 49ers podcast host here, Cattles and Ramie, Sactown Sports. How concerned are you, Eric, over the interior offensive line, especially after the injury to Brunskill?
I think, those are guys that are going to have to continue to gel. And that's been one of the things, with the offensive line, they talk about it. This is a scheme where guys kind of move in unison. And, that cohesiveness, it takes a little time. It's not something that's going to happen over just a few weeks of training camp and preseason games. It might be by mid-season where you fully get them to start clicking, especially with so much turnover there. It's not just one spot as it's been kind of in the past. You got your right guard, your center, and your left guard who are all new, kind of playing together, including the rookie's actually playing very well. And we'll see if that can continue against Minnesota. But I'd say overall, you like the upside of this group and would likely, want to improve at the center position. But I think right now at the guard position, they got the guys. Now it's just, really kind of growing and understanding, the development aspect of it. And I think they got the right guys around those dudes. Trent Williams, he took some of those guys in, had them kind of working out with him during the offseason. I think all that helps, but you just need the reps. And right now, Kyle Shanahan's definitely leaving those guys in for an extended period of time, not like some of the other starters where, you play a series or two and then you come out. Those guys are in for an entire half, getting all the necessary reps that they need.
Eric, they got some guys on the defensive line as we switch to that side of the football, Ebicom and Armstead, that can help with the pass rush, but they're not pass rushers per se, right? They're not that edge guy. I know they drafted Drake Jackson, but when you look at Javon Kinlaw, how confident are you that he can kind of turn things around here and give them that impactful season that they need?
I think for Kinlaw, he was the 14th overall pick, and the expectations are that of a 14th overall pick. Right. I think for me, I've kind of tapered my expectations back just a little bit to where it's like, all right, this is a guy who has missed plenty of time due to injuries, and now just can he be a legit two-down player, right? Can he be a run stuffer and then get you even minimal pass rush production? And then after this season, if he could play a full 17 games, let's say he can play 16 or 15, that'd be a win right now. And then can he build off of that heading into the next offseason and develop more of a pass rush and then take his game to the next level, which we've seen that with guys like Eric Armstead, right? Like for the first few years, Armstead dealt with injuries, and there were people like, oh, he's a bust, and they thought the 49ers were crazy for picking up his fifth-year option. Next thing you know, he's one of the better players at his position in the league, and maybe not like super dominant, but he's really good. He's really good. So can you get really good out of Javon Kinlaw as well? I think time will tell, but I think right now, this season, if he can be a two-down guy, I think that's a win for the 49ers.
Lots of injuries in the secondary right now, Eric. Sam Womack also getting the vote of confidence as the nickel back. Your thoughts on this secondary and whether or not they're good enough to sustain an injury or two here?
They can sustain an injury or two. Last season, the 49ers had to go out there and play games with Josh Norman and, young Diamador Lenore, young Ambry Thomas, and somehow they still figured out a way to have, on paper, the number 6 overall pass defense, right? And I think number 3 overall defense. So one thing that they've shown, and I maybe give the 49ers a little bit too much benefit of the doubt when it comes to this, but their coaching is really good. And more times than not, even when they kind of lack in a certain area, the coaches help the team kind of overcome that to the point where maybe it's not perfect, but it's like, man, can we squeak by in some of these games, even with some of the limitations there? And I think they have been able to. So, obviously you want them to be fully healthy. You hear about how, Justin Jefferson was kind of dogging the secondary throughout the joint practices. You don't want to hear that. Obviously, Justin Jefferson, terrific young receiver, over 3,000 yards in his first 2 years. But even then, you want guys that are going to kind of fight back. And I think they're still kind of growing from there. But ideally, you want Travarius Ward out there. Ideally, you want Jimmy Ward out there. Obviously, Emmanuel Mosley. If they got their full load of guys, then they're going to be solid. They're going to be solid. One of those guys out, cool. But you can't have 3 guys out like you had this week in Minnesota. You can't have that going into the regular season.
One more for you. A quick one here, Eric. A lot of the ones likely out tomorrow. Who should we be paying attention to most?
Well, you brought it up. You talked about the interior, and that's right where my mind goes, because those are guys that are actually going to be playing. Like, right? How many starters are legitimately going to be playing in this game for the 49ers on either side of the ball? Not many, but I know those interior guys, they definitely will. So how do they look? They're going to be going up against backups most likely. So do they end up looking like starters going against backups? That's what I want to see. I thought last week they did a really good job of that with Burford and definitely Aaron Banks as well. Can they double up that and do it again? And I'm pretty sure week 3 of the preseason, you get to see them go against starters, and then that's when it gets real. But right now, definitely all eyes on the interior offensive line.
Eric, we appreciate you, my man. Let's do it again soon. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. There goes Eric Crocker, Locked On 49ers podcast host, joining us here on Cattles and Ramie. No Ramie, just Cattles on this Friday. So a lot of good points by